For the best Italian food in Western New York, Elliott Apollo's, call 716-825-3675. The Lardon Construction Group.
Fubo TV, the official streaming service of Do Champions. FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Do Champions.
For all your summertime needs, beauty pools, as well as kayak pools.
CX Chronicles, your total customer solutions focused manager. W.GG, the official energy drink of Do Champions.
Hey, Sons of Erie, our artwork looks better on your walls. Hamburg Brewing, please visit our tap room on Boston State Road, Hamburg, New York. And finally,
Fat Boy Surf Club for all your surfing needs.
All right, and welcome into another edition of Dude's Hockey Hotline. I am your host every Saturday morning at 10 a.m., bright and early, Matt Diegert. And as always, my co-host, my cohort, whatever you want to call him, Brian. How are you this morning? Beyond716.
I'm good. Bright and early here in California at 7 a.m. to talk about the Buffalo Sabres hockey franchise. And yes, extra coffee is here because to get going about the Sabres at 7 a.m. Although, just get me on some topic that drives me nuts about this team. And yeah, I'm awake and ready to go. So how you doing?
I'm not too bad, not too bad. Was a little disappointed, to say the least, from Thursday night. I know we were super excited about the Four Nations all week. I mean, huge weekend for huge week for hockey. Big week for the NHL in general.
Yeah.
9.3 million viewers on the U.S. Canada game on Thursday night, which is actually the highest non-Olympic hockey game ever watched, ever recorded. Which is amazing, which is awesome. Shows that, the sport is kind of growing a little bit. So I'm super happy about that. So, because, hockey is a beautiful game. To take out, like, the hitting and everything like that, even if you leave that in there, it's still a beautiful game. You're on this, eighth of an inch blade, skating on ice, and, it's just the way that these players, how fast they can play, how, the way that they can handle the puck and everything like that. It's just awesome. And I enjoy it very much. As much as I love football, hockey is just as awesome, and you get into it. And it's unfortunate for, Sabres fans that we've gone through this, 13 now going on 14-year drought, unless some sort of miracle happens this year. But, I know that I've, moved on to the draft and
Yeah.
It used to be July 1st every year. I don't know what it is this year, but the new league year for that, when free agency opens and everything. So just to see if, there's anything out there that this team can really improve upon. We know they can improve. We get that. They have $33 million to spend this year. But, hopefully they spend some of that, before the trade deadline and before we do our trade deadline show, which, we'll be releasing some more information about that once we fully get that together. But that's Friday, March 7th. We know that is that much going on. So, with that being said, Brian, what did you feel about not only the Four Nations, but also them leaving Tage Thompson off that? Do you think maybe, he helps them get over that hump in that U.S. Canada game? With his shot, and just what else? How are you feeling about this team moving forward as far as the Sabres goes right now, for the last third of the season?
Sure. First of all, the Four Nations. When it first got announced, it was pretty exciting, right? You and I were talking about it before that. I don't think we really envisioned it would be this successful, right? In terms of the passion, in terms of the quality of play too. Let's even talk about that. And that's the one thing I want to talk about. America, very disappointing we lost, but the USA played really, really well. Like, we showed we're toe to toe with Canada now. There's no debate anymore in terms of that. And listen, you got to credit Jordan Binnington. The guy made huge saves in overtime. He was tremendous.
Matthews had 2 point blank chances on on the doorstep. Binnington robbed him. Brady Tkachuk had the one on the side of the net, robbed him too. I'm like,
yep. And if as much as I was disappointed, if I had to pick someone to score for Canada, I'm glad it was Connor McDavid, and just for the game. He's the best player in the world. right? He's the guy, but now it's on to the NHL to make sure you market these guys strongly. You have this momentum, right, that you got from this tournament, right? You see PK Subban out there really going to bat for an NHL, talking about how the passion, the players, and you see it. Now can the NHL capitalize on that? That's the question, right? Because those are the best players in the world, so you get the best product, right? In terms of Tage Thompson, some other players, I mean, you can look at Jason Robinson. I thought Jason Robinson could have been a big fit because he's a big body guy that can kind of work those corners. You know what I mean? He in front of the net, especially. I mean, Jack Hughes was a major disappointment. Major disappointment. I was expecting more out of him in this tournament. Maybe Tage Thompson would have been a fit, but I think Tage's time will come. They put guys like Chris Kreider on the roster. They put Brock Nelson, but they're older, so they know they're only going to have so many opportunities. So I think it's just Sullivan and the staff saying, let's get them some chances. Tage and Cole Caulfield and those guys, Robinson, they'll be coming soon. So they'll definitely get their chances. But yeah, it was a great spectacle for the sport. I mean, as disappointing as it was, and after that game, but listen, we just lost. I mean, they lost the game. I wish they had another game. I wish they played best of 3, to be honest. It was that great that you're sitting there saying you kind of left wanting more because you're like, wow, they just split 2 games, right? But it is what it is. But as far as the Sabres go and leading into today and the rest of the season, listen, unfortunately, you're right. We're not going to make the playoffs unless they go on a 13-game bender, which I just don't see this team being capable of at this point. You got to look for certain players. You look for certain trade possibilities. Will trades open up the door for other players to get more opportunities on this roster? What can Kevin Adams do? What can't he do? So
I mean, our team's gonna, teams that are right now in wild card spots or wild card hunt, are they gonna start to fall back, and then some of their players open up for a trade for the deadline? Whether it be the Sabres acquiring somebody because they want such and such a player. They want Jason Zucker, but Jason Zucker wants to stay here, but Sabres are gonna give him an opportunity to go win a cup, and then maybe say, hey, we'd like to have you back. Come talk to us in the summer. We'll re-sign you. But let's try and improve and maybe get a player or prospect or somebody that's going to help us out next year. So when you're on the team, this player's here or something of that nature. And that's one of the things that I've always liked about, hockey rather than like, football is those guys, they kind of use the trade deadline and the, any of the trades to be like, hey, this is a rental type player. Let's trade him and we'll bring him back in the offseason. And the players are kind of, it's kind of like the whole, Reed Ferguson go wait in the parking lot type thing, with the Bills. But in all seriousness, I mean, that's really how it kind of breaks down for, teams in the NHL is they'll some of these bottom feeder teams, unfortunately the Sabres are a bottom feeder team right now until they can prove that they're not. But it's we're not the ones going to get rentals. We have players that are potential rental players on our team that other teams you can kind of weaponize that to bring something in and then bring the player back in the off season.
Absolutely. And by the way, I wanted to I listen to the Sabre podcast at times, but Peters and Rivet do their podcast. They had a really good one this past week. They had Steve Bartlett, who's an NHL agent, on. And I recommend any Sabre fan listen to this because they talk about a lot about the taxes, kind of things that Kevin Adams alludes to in his press, with his smug comment, in the press conference. But they also got a lot into the no trade clauses, right? We've talked about this a lot on our pod, right, Matt? And the other angle that I thought he brought up was very interesting is it's not only about whether the player wants to go to the Sabres or not, but it's also you may have a market like let's say New York, right? Los Angeles, right? I've always said Los Angeles I live here in Los Angeles. If you have money, it's a great place to live, right? It really, really is, right? And sometimes the player just doesn't want to move at all. Like it's not even about the Sabres. It's also about the guy saying, hey, I'm going to use my no trade power and say, no, I'm staying here. That's it.
My family's here, they're in school.
Yeah. Yep. They want to do that. And so it talks about the so it's a good listen. I recommend Sabre fans to listen to it. So it does speak to Adam's challenge right now when you're a bottom roster like we have been, there's multiple layers, there's multiple challenges that he's got to get over. So there's very minute players, only certain players that they can really target in certain situations. It's not like the whole league's open. If the whole league was open up to the Sabres right now, I actually believe we probably would have gotten a trade done by now. Now, what also helps is that the cap is increasing. I think that helps a little bit. I think that could create some breathing room for certain teams to get a little more aggressive in certain trades. But I like this comment about what we should do, about what Tucky said, right? About no more prospects. We have plenty of them. I want vet and blue guys. And I couldn't agree more, Matt. I still think we're in a situation where we could play both sides here. We can look at a guy like Yoki Haru and say, you know what, Henry, you've been here for a while. Maybe it's time for you to get another opportunity somewhere else. But maybe we do keep Jason Zucker, right? Maybe we don't ship him off. Maybe we look to extend him or bring in another glue guy. So I think that's a really, really good point that Tucky brought up. And I think we could play both sides of it and kind of, we don't want to be a complete seller, just throw everybody out there and say, hey, come feast on the Sabres. But
well, and that's the thing. Adams did say he's not going to be a seller. Like that's the nice thing. But if you can weaponize things to kind of go along with what Tucky said and what I had responded to him in the comments, is I meant more of like an NHL ready type prospect, that somebody maybe is in the NHL and like kind of like how a Kulik is, that could really use these last 28 games to come in the NHL, learn the NHL, or like kind of get in the NHL. Somebody who couldn't bump up in their roster because they have they don't have room for that type of player, and maybe bring him in here. So maybe go find somebody like that for like a Jason Zucker rather than, hey, that first round pick. Because that first round pick, because you're trading it with a rental type player, you're probably talking somebody in the 20 to 32 type area that you're not going to get. That player's probably not going to play for 2-3 years. So why trade for a first overall or first round pick when you can go get an NHL ready type prospect if they can find somebody that is like that, if they were to trade as Jason Zucker or something like that. But like I said, I don't want any more actual prospects or draft picks. I hope that they trade a lot of the, I don't care like where we are unless we have the first overall pick. I don't want the Sabres to, or I don't want the Sabres to make that pick. I want them to package it with something else and go get a high and leave it unprotected, because like at this point, unless it's 1, 2, or 3, leave it unprotected, because
I agree.
Like we talked about last week. Like we talked about last week with your guy that you like.
Porter Martone or bust. Yeah, I mean, they all call him a Kachuk clone. I mean, after you saw the Four Nations, wouldn't you want a Kachuk in this city? Wouldn't that be a boost to this organization? That's the kind of player Buffalo fans would love, right? So 6'3" guy with size and grit and things like that. That's the kind of things we're missing with we have a lot of skill. We have skill guys, but we kind of need to mix that in. But you're right. I agree with you, Matt. If we're going to pick like 6 or 7, then let's use that pick to get ourselves
package it with something and go use that for an Elias Pettersson or a top guy that maybe is on their team as a second line center, like a Jordan Kyrou or a Robert Thomas, and that guy who's the second line center that could potentially be the first line center, and go get him. Use that pick to package with something like that to go get one of those guys. I'm just
Absolutely.
We're all spitballing here, but it's really truly a good idea to try and improve this team, because again, you're continuing to lose fans like by the day, by the loss, by the season. And it's unfortunate because hockey is such a great sport to watch, and we saw that on Thursday night, how great it was, how amazing of a game that is, because it's not like where the NFL, you're lined up across the goal line, but as we saw 9 times out of 10 on that tush push or the brotherly shove or the snowplow, whatever, they're gonna get over the goal line. Where in the NHL you have the goaltender sitting there making these amazing saves. Look at the couple of, even talking about Connor Hellebuck. Look at those couple of saves that he made that kept the game 2-2 in the third period. And
Yep.
when you have the goaltender, basically keeping the puck out of the net, I mean, I go back to my childhood and watching Hasek and Waugh and Brodeur and even moving more towards into my teenage and 20s and watching Ryan Miller and watching Carey Price and watching all the, it's just an awesome thing to, this little round rubber disc that you're keeping out of this giant 4x6 net. It's just, it's elegant. It's so much fun to watch, and it's awesome.
Yep, I agree. I couldn't agree more. And this is another good comment too. We always say we're close and we have a stacked team in Rochester, which we do. I mean, we got some really good talent in Rochester. It's time to start pulling the trigger, and I certainly hope that they do. Tuck, yeah, we do have some. I like some of the things that are going on down there with some of our prospects in Rochester, and I hope they kind of stay there for a little bit. I don't want to rush them right now. The Sabres, one of the biggest problems I think they've had is not keeping the right players here, like a Reinhardt as an example. I mean, you see the way Jack Eichel's been playing. I mean, we're not going to open up the Jack Eichel can of worms again, but you get what I'm saying, right? If things would have been different, he was our number one center and Reinhardt was our number two center, I think this franchise would look a lot different right now. Those are the only two moves. I'm not talking about anything else. That's it, right?
I mean, even still, look at, you bring up Jack Eichel real quickly. As much as, we sit here and we say we wish we still would have had him or his type of player, he didn't do anything in the tournament. Yoki Haru had more goals than Jack Eichel.
He did have a great. Eichel had a beautiful pass on one of the goals. I will say
he did.
The one to who was it? Who had a really good tournament too was Genstel. Genstel had a really good tournament. I thought he was really, really good. And I agree. No, and by the way, Tuckia, you are not crazy on this comment. That I love Zach Benson, but I still would rather see him develop in Rochester right now. I think it'd be better for his game to beast down there and get that consistent top time. And I know Lindy loves him, and I think there's a lot to love about Benson's game, but I think we could have brought in a veteran that has some of his skill set and let Benson go in Rochester, right, and just kind of gotten that development. But, Matt, I do have a player I want to discuss with you after a recent signing yesterday that I think you may be interested in, right? Because this is a topic that you alluded to. We've texted things like that about UPL's play, right? So the Vancouver Canucks signed their other goaltender yesterday, Kevin Lankin, into a $4.5 million contract for 3 extra years. So now they got 2 goalies on the books, Thatcher Demko for 5, and they got Kevin Lankin in for 4.5. So Thatcher Demko's always been a goalie that I've really loved. I thought he's had a lot of talent. And he's making $5 million just next year, Matt, and that's it. Then he's an unrestricted free agent. He's 29 years old. He does not have a no-trade clause. So there's no barriers there at all. I would like to see the Sabres give the Vancouver Canucks a call and say, are you interested in trading Thatcher Demko? And put him with UPL for just another year. Let Devin Levi stay in Rochester again. Continue to develop, right? Because what is the one trait about the Sabres, if you think about their history, that's been their bread and butter, goaltending, right? Yep. Tom Barrasso, Hasek, Darren Pupa. I'm going way back here for those old, right? The Sabres have always had strong goaltending. Ryan Miller, right? Guys like that. And ever since Ryan Miller, we've lost our way in net. What if we brought in a Thatcher? What if Thatcher Demko popped with the Sabres? Or you can even flip him next year. Let's say he's still only on 1-year contract. He still has talent. I think it would stabilize the net for the Sabres and give them 2 options there that they can really pick from. I doubt that the Sabres will do this, but I would love to see Kevin Adams explore it at this point.
And bringing that up, I mean that could always be, a way of kind of evening out like a Elias Pettersson deal a little bit or something like that. And I'm not saying that that's, and I'm always on it. Like if they do nothing, they do nothing. Like whatever. But this team needs, a 1C that we keep talking about, because until they get that, it's like having the quarterback, right?
Yep.
In football, it's like having a quarterback. You have to have that one guy that is an elite center that can make plays and score goals. And, it's, you need that Connor McDavid type player. Now, I don't mean Connor McDavid, exactly, but that type of,
Yep.
a skill type player. You need that. You need the Crosbys. You need the McDavids. You need the McKinnon. You need the the Eichel. Any of that. You need the Kachucks. And it's unfortunate that this team doesn't have that right now. In any way, shape, or form. Because if you add a 40-50 goal scorer, because clearly Tage Thompson had at this point I'm going to call it a fluke year. He might be a 30-35 goal scorer moving forward, but if you put a an 80-90 assist guy with him, who's to say he can't score 50-60 again?
Oh, he could for sure. Absolutely.
And that's what I'm saying. Unless you have that, because clearly Tage Thompson's most likely going to stay on the wing now, if Lindy Ruff's here. So you keep him on the wing, and you put a 70, 80, 90 assist guy next to him that's going to be able to feed him the puck where he wants it for that slap shot. Who's to say he can't score 60?
Yep. The other thing too, Matt, is about the Sabres. I mean, you talked about football, right? There are certain teams out there that have cultures, right? They have certain ways of doing things. Maybe they don't have the great quarterback. So Pittsburgh's the one that comes to mind to me all the time, right? Pittsburgh has a certain culture in a certain way. They may have block quarterbacks, and they still find a way to get in the playoffs, right? But they have that culture of defense tough, right? When you think about the Steelers, right? What is the Sabres' identity? I'll hang up and listen. Right?
Don't have one right now.
It used to be strong goaltending, right? Forwards that are physical, right? Attack. They had good defense, good solid defense, and that would carry us to at least being a very solid playoff team. I think some Sabre fans may not know. I think the first 30 years of our existence, the Sabres had the 4th highest winning percentage in the sport.
That's
right. I mean, I think the first, we barely ever missed the playoffs the first 35 years of our existence. This really only started the last 15 years. The Sabres were always a model of very solid, above average franchise that consistently, and it was, we were kind of a representation of the fans of Buffalo, right? And now you look at it now, and it's just what is the identity? What is the Bills have a clear identity now, right? I know it's Josh Allen, but even beyond Josh Allen, they also have an identity, right?
Right.
But during the drought years, what were the Bills? They were just a colossal, garbled mess of pretty good players. Yeah. They weren't bad, but they were just okay. But they didn't have a real, and that's the thing. I think the Sabres need to say, hey, what are we? What do we want to be? Strong goalies, big offense. What is it? I have no idea.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, especially when you talk about the Bills, is that's why that they never had, that next great quarterback, and why it took them from Jim Kelly to Josh Allen to have a good quarterback, a great quarterback, an elite quarterback. The best quarterback in the NFL being the MVP. It took them that long because of their culture, but also they wanted to win. So instead of trying to rebuild or anything like that, they went 7-9, 7-9, 7-9, 8-8, 9-7, whatever. But they were always right in the middle of the pack, and they didn't have that, guy in Brandon Beane that was like, okay, we need to fix this. Let's go get the quarterback, and we'll ride or die with who we pick. They need to do that for the Sabres. If they find a certain guy. Kevin Adams needs to get off his hands and make these phone calls and be like, this is the guy I want. This is the guy I view as the the 1C between him and Lindy Ruff, and this is the guy that we think is going to come in here and get us over that playoff hump, and help to make the guys around him better. So go get him. Go get that guy. Yep. Because if you don't, you're going to be still sitting as a bottom feeder, and we're still going to be circling the drain here and talking about what could the Sabres do, what's the trade deadline look like, and it's going to be how are we going to improve this team for next year at this year's trade deadline, rather than let's go get a Mikael Granlund at the trade deadline so we can improve this team and be one of those guys that brings somebody in here as a rental player, because I want to be that team that's like, hey, this guy, like a Dinas Zubris, let's talk about that for a second.
Yep.
That year we were the President's Trophy winners in 06-07.
Yep.
And the Darcy Regier went and got Dinas Zubris and brought him in here, and it didn't work out. We didn't get past the Ottawa Senators, go to the Stanley Cup, whatever. Yep. But he did. He pinpointed on a guy that he thought that they needed, brought that guy in, and they were the best team in hockey that year.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
No, that the Sabres really were. I really thought the best team to me. The one before that, when we lost to Carolina, with who had the staph infection? Was it Jay McKee? I think. Remember we were out our 4 defensemen in Game 7.
Yep.
I mean that one for me.
Jeff Gilson had to come in and play.
Jeff Gilson. There's a name from the past. Matt. Somebody those old Sabre names. Yeah, I really believe if the Sabres get to the finals that year, I think the Sabres won the Stanley Cup. I think we had everything we needed that year.
Oh yeah, they're
Edmonton was an 8 seed. We got a home.
Yeah.
It would have been a good series. Edmonton was tough, but I think Buffalo would have found a way to win. That would have been that one stings for me more than no goal, to be honest, because I thought with no goal Dallas was the better team. I never really thought the Sabres were better than the Stars, to be truthful. Hasek was so incredible that he was kind of keeping us in those games. Whereas the Ryan Miller years at Carolina, I thought the Sabres were the best team in hockey. I really, really do. But I digress. But, that's the thing. Like, this city, the passion is there. There's fans like this here. And another good comment from Tucky. I'm in this bucket, too. I'm not from Western New York originally. I'm from New Jersey. My dad's from Buffalo. I mean, I feel like Buffalo's my second home. But and the identity outside of the area is an amazing fan base. I agree. I mean, we just want an 8 seed. We want to get in there and make the playoffs and get that energy back. I mean, I guarantee you, we do that, the energy will start coming back. I mean, it might take another year of it after that to do well to get it back, but I mean,
yeah,
right?
I mean,
you know how it is.
You get one playoff series where it's even if they get swept. If they get 2 playoff games at home, they're able to have do the harbor or the party in the plaza and kind of build everything around there. And, where it's, 20,000 fans inside and then, I know it's 19,070, but 20,000 fans inside and then you got, whatever outside. It's like a Bills game. It's like it's like a Bills playoff game because those guys outside are rocking it as much as the people inside, and they're shaking that building from the outside just as much as, if not more than the people are shaking it from inside. So let's kind of move on to what's going on now and talk a little bit about the Sabres here. Today they're playing who are they playing today?
The New York Rangers at 5:30 Eastern Time, 2:30 for us West Coasters. So they have a little sort of late matinee against the New York Rangers. So a team that's going to be desperate, right? A team that's gotten themselves back into the playoff race. So they're going to bring the energy right off the bat. They have to get busy. They don't have a lot of time to make that push. So again, so what are we looking for out of the Sabres? The next rest of the season, like I said, we have about a third left.
Before we get to that, against the Rangers today, it looks like line pairings at practice yesterday, and this is probably what's most likely going to move into the game. You have your first line is Cooley, Thompson, Peterka. Second line is McLeod, Tuck, Zucker. Third line is Cousins, Quinn, Greenway, and fourth line is going to be Krebs, Malenstein, or Benson, and Lafferty. I mean, even that on paper for the forward line is not bad. When you're really looking at it, it's not a bad lineup. It's not a bad game day lineup for the forwards. And so I mean, if you get that 1C type player and you put him on the top line, if I was to tell you Kulik is your second line center, Cousins is your or McLeod is your third line center, and you traded Cousins to get that 1C, and Krebs is your fourth line center. Like, I'm sitting here saying that go make that one move, and obviously do other things on the back end with the defense and things like that. But make that one move, and the forward group is pretty much set because you have four lines that can score, but then you also have that fourth line that's going to be able to put pressure on in Malenstein or Benson, and then Krebs and Lafferty. Like I'm perfectly content with that. If you go out and get or even still Kulik, you figure that Kulik's going to be your 1C on that top line, and you go get a second line center, not bringing Casey Middlestat back or anything like that, but like a Casey Middlestat type,
that ship has sailed.
yeah, like a 2C type player, just that type of player that's going to be able to fix the spine, and but on defense, real quickly, Byram is with Dahlin, Power is with Yoki Haru, and Gilbert is with Clifton.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I
cool
like
with
the
that.
third pairing. Yeah, I'm okay with it. I would like to see more out of Owen Power the rest of the way. We need to see, again, the biggest word I keep saying is C. It starts with the C, and it's consistency, right? That's the biggest thing that plagues this team. And when we got into it last time, and I know it's easy to say this, but forget the 13-game winless streak, okay? You look at most of the season, Sabres have actually been pretty okay. And they've been over 500, right? They've had, 12-9 or something since that streak, 12-9-1. And I think that's about the type of team we thought this team would be, right? And we were 11-9-1 before we took that nosedive and had the 13-game winless streak. Again, if we just held on to a few of those games that we were winning by multiple goals, like we should have, and we have an extra 6 or 7 points right in the standings, we're sitting now really at 57 points where the Islanders are, and we're only 3 points. We're only 3 points out of the last playoff spot, which is kind of what we probably thought this team was going to be, right? So it's as bad as it looks. It's closer than we think, right? So that's why if I'm Adams, I'm not. Now Dylan Cousins is probably one of those top 6 guys that may have to move to get what we want, right? In terms of a top center, right? Like even a guy like Kyrou, or we talked about Robert Thomas, or even Patterson, right? Oh, yeah, I'd love to get away without moving Dylan Cousins, because if we could get a center like that to play with him, maybe that would ignite his game. But I think that's going to be something. But yeah, so that's what I'm looking for. I like the pairings. Oh, you mentioned the name in your pairings, Jordan Greenway. When I perked, I was like, I forgot about Jordan Greenway. We haven't seen him in a while, and he was playing very, very well. It'll be interesting to see if the Sabres keep him or not. That's one guy to really keep an eye on for the trade deadline, in my opinion, because I do think he has a skill set that teams are going to like. So do you keep Jordan Greenway, Matt, if you're Kevin Adams and the Sabres? Like, would you like to see them keep him? Or do you say, let's say if you can maximize the return on him, that he, to me, he's a tough call. Right now he makes $3 million, and then he's an unrestricted free agent next year. So it's really hard to say whether he wants to stay, or because that was a Granato move, right? Even though Kevin Adams brought him in, it's not. I'm not sure.
Right,
I mean, Lindy does like him, but yeah.
He played with the U.S. development team with Tage Thompson, and but here's the thing: you need that type of player. Like Jordan Greenway plays that tough, gritty style, play, and he actually uses his 6'6" frame that goes out and hits a guy uses his stick, his wingspan for the penalty kill and things like that. And that's one of the things that they've been missing on the penalty kill. And that's when the season started and the Sabres were really good on the penalty kill, they had Tage Thompson and Jordan Greenway, with both of them using their, huge wingspans to be able to, figure that out and do that. But,
one of our comments in here, let's see, is right here from Real Deal Prime. And he mentions a player here. I know for some Sabre fans, this may be a sore spot, right? About Alex Tuck. Now, let me ask you a question. We always talk about Dylan Cousins being on the move to get a guy like Elias Pettersson. Alex Tuck has a very attractive contract for a lot of NHL GMs, right? He only makes $4.5 million this year and next year. And then if you were to get an Elias Pettersson in a deal, would you say goodbye to a fan favorite, to a Western New York kid, and Alex Tuck? And I see that face because I feel the same way.
See, and I take it out of there specifically for the part where you know, with the, see, I'm trying to find the words for it because, you know, I want to take out the part of hometown team and, you know, playing for the Sabres and all that stuff because in looking at just the hockey player, those are the types of players that this team needs. So why are we getting rid of an Alex Tuck to bring in something that, you know, is maybe not necessarily is not necessarily going to help the team? Like, yeah, I get it. You're going to add a score, but you're losing that type of player. So it's tough to say that I would trade him because I wouldn't want to. I don't think I would want to trade the player. I don't care that you know, he's a hometown team or a hometown guy, because if you asked me if it was Alex Tuck and seven first round picks that were unprotected for Connor McDavid, bye. Like and I guess it depends on the player because you can't. But if you're talking like it's an Elias Pettersson, so Elias Pettersson for Alex Tuck and a first round pick, I'm probably not doing that. You know, whether if Vancouver agreed to it or not, I don't think I'm happy with it because you need those type of, you know, bigger guys on certain lines to help out the other guys on the line that are, you know, scoring, because he's got that little bit of scoring touch. He could put up 30, 35 goals himself. 25 to 35 goals himself, and then assist on other things. And, you know, he's the guy that stands in front of the net and everything else. So, I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's tough to sit here and say, you know, it really is.
It is. Now, if I could put Matthias Samuelsson on that deal to get rid of his contract, then just the way he plays, which I'm kind of over Matthias Samuelsson at this point, is I would consider it. It depends on the return, but if I can somehow talk Vancouver into that and say, listen, can you just take Matthias off our hands too, as well? Because I think that would open up a spot for, like I said, a guy like Gilbert to be here full time, right? Those kind of defensemen that we really, really need. I still believe you get a top center here somehow. Very hard task to do. If you could get somebody. Yeah, you know, Tuck felt, that's a good comment about Tuck. He felt like the heart and soul of the team 2 years ago. I think there's something to that. I still love the way he's playing, though. I think he's playing very, very well. So, and yeah, Henny, thank you for coming on board. And anybody out there, Matt, I know you'll back this up. Please go to our YouTube page and subscribe to Do Champions. We would love that. And we have our Sabres podcast here every Saturday, so we look forward to. And we're really happy to see you all here. And we want to hear from you. You're the reason we're here. So keep those comments coming. And you know, we commiserate together, right, Matt? I mean, as much as this team drives us crazy, we could see there are Sabre fans out there, and we're all yearning for the same thing. We're all driving towards the same goals. So we really appreciate it.
So I want to go through this here real quickly. Well, it's not going to be quick. It might be a little bit longer than we think.
Yeah.
But so as far as, you know, we're talking about the trade deadline and trades and everything like that, improving this team moving forward. First and foremost, what I want to see from this team is just continue to build and continue to play together, build on each and every game, start putting together, like we talked about, start putting together, you know, shifts and minutes in periods, and then full games, and then you know, a couple of games in a row, and think where you're not having these, you know, these gaps of memory, and you know, having bad, like, and we get it. There's gonna be a bad shift here or there, but let's build on. Here's the, you know, Alex Tuck, you know, Tuck, and that line goes out. The you know, Tuck, McLeod, Zucker goes out, and then Lindy Ruff puts out Benson, Krebs, and Lafferty. the energy that first line, or the Tuck McLeod Zucker line puts out, let's build on that and start building on that and start putting those together and finding out who's going to be here, finding out who's going to and really kind of see if we can't put together a good last 28 games of this season, because you're not playing. This isn't a team that's tanking. This isn't like 2015 or 2014-15 when they're tanking for Eichel and they're trading away every piece because the goaltender's making too many saves. Like, we're not doing that. Okay? So these last 28 games, trying to get into a spot where we're maybe moving up the standings a little bit, starting to put some of these games together. And I'm not saying get into the playoffs or anything like that. I'm fine with that. But let's start to improve and see what we can do and see what Adams is able to bring in here for the trade deadline for that last 15 games or whatever it is.
We have 28 left. We still got a good amount of games left. I mean, we do have
absolutely
28 games. Well, let me give you a record. Let me give you a number, Matt. How about we went 16-12 right down the stretch? I know that doesn't seem 16, but we finished 38-39. I mean, it's not great, but again, it's not terribly far off where I thought we would be. I thought maybe we'd be at 42 wins, maybe a few games over, maybe 5 games over 500, right in that last playoff spot. I mean, it comes back to those games that we blew. I mean, those multiple goal leads that we just evaporated, and we didn't get any points for it. Yeah, I know. I feel that too, Henry, about the 13 games.
Well, and I'm glad he brought this up, because that's kind of the next thing I want to move into here for us. What do we honestly do here? We're in complete disarray. Our team is bad. Our ownership doesn't care, and we haven't made the playoffs in over a decade. Completely horrible. I get the frustration, because I'm there too, but I can't blame ownership. Because he has given Adams the ability, from what everything that is out there, from him going and signing Taylor Hall, and for him to allow him. I think it's more on Adams than it is on Pegula, because if Adams went to Pegula and said, "This is what I'm doing. Can you write this? Can you write the check for this guy to do this?" I think he's fine doing that, because at this point they have so much cap space and everything like that. As long as it's not hurting them in any other type of way, I think it's perfectly fine. So with that being said, I want to go through this list here real quickly and start seeing if there's any of these guys that you think that could come in. Now, this is from the fourthperiod.com. Definitely check them out for anybody watching. Definitely check them out for any rumors or anything like that. So let's see here. So number one is Elias Pettersson. Obviously, teams reportedly linked. They still have him as their number one trade player to watch on their big board, right? So Buffalo, Carolina, Detroit, Minnesota, Dallas, Ottawa, and Columbus. And Dave Pagnotta does an amazing job. He is one of the true insiders that's that people would say you're not an insider, and that I followed him almost his entire career with the Fourth Period, when he was the original the rumor site, right? Along with the other idiot that the Flyers fan that runs the E5 stuff.
Eklund.
Yeah,
I used to make.
I was trying not to go, say it and stuff like that.
On a Sabres message. By the way, a Sabres message board. I think it was Sabrespace. I used to. My name used to be E5 on there in the parentheses with the logo of his generic, no face. So I used to.
That's funny.
Kind of make fun of Eklund all the time with his E5s and his E4s. We always talk about that with my buddies internally too.
Hey, I'm going to go make this sandwich, E5, right?
E5, yeah, E3.
But in all seriousness, Elias Pettersson's number one on that on Dave's big board that he has there. Age 26, 11.6 million cap hit. Number two is Brock Nelson. Obviously, we know how we feel about Elias Pettersson. Brock Nelson, he's 33 years old, $6 million cap hit. maybe 5 years ago, maybe Brock Nelson's maybe somebody you bring in, but I think he's done as a player. He wasn't very fast anyways. He played more of that 3C 2C type role. And then you got Dylan Cousins is his number 3 guy on his big board. Teams reportedly linked to Dylan Cousins: Vancouver, Calgary, Chicago, Detroit, and Nashville.
Nashville, interesting. Okay.
Cousins again is 23 with a $7.1 million cap hit. Brandon Tanev out of the from the Kraken. 33
Best mug
years old.
shot in the league, by the way.
Yeah. Yes. Toronto, Washington, New York Rangers, Vegas, Ottawa, Columbus.
I'd love to see him in the Sabre uniform. I'll just put that out
there.
there.
I would too, but the age scares me a little bit because you're not going to hit on every player's not going to be a Jason Zucker type hit, right?
Yep.
Yanni Gord, 33 years old, $5.1 million cap hit. Let's see here. Seth Jones, 30 years old, $9.5 million cap hit. John Gabriel Pajot, 32 years old, $5 million cap hit. Jake Evans, $28 million. Now, here's a player that I don't think that he would get traded within, division, within conference, but Jake Evans is not a bad type player. 28 years old. 28 years old, $1.7 million. And if you're going to leave Kulik up there and maybe leave McLeod up there, he could fit right in as either your 2 or 2C or 3C, which is great. But I don't know, but that's a player that I would be interested in personally. John Gibson in goal. We don't probably not going to want him.
I doubt his term. I just don't think they're taking on that long of a term.
Now, his number 10 guy is actually 2 guys on the big board. Interesting one. Bowen Byram / Owen Power. Teams reportedly linked to these 2 players: Vancouver, Anaheim, and Winnipeg. I really do think that if Vancouver starts falling backwards, I think that Pettersson deal could get done by the deadline. I really do.
It's possible. Well, let me throw another name at you since you say Anaheim, right? In terms of top 6 centers, and this guy has fallen off a little bit. He was on the front of an NHL game recently, right? He was that highly regarded. One of the greatest goals ever scored in our building was a highlight reel goal. Trevor Zegras. Do the Sabres say if they want Bowen Byram, if the Sabres don't want to extend Bowen Byram, do they say, you know what? Or if you say maybe an Owen Power, maybe you make Zegras part of the deal. I know that's a little bit of a wild deal, but that gives us a guy that could flourish in a new place like Buffalo. And if you put him with the Tage Thompson,
here's
an interesting thought.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And I maybe earlier in the year I might have been interested in him and anything like that, but I truly think he is a very similar player to Dylan Cousins with a little bit more skill. And but so you trade off some of the the things that Dylan Cousins does, like the when he wants to hit, he's able to hit. When he wants to play defense, he can play defense. For whatever mentally is going on with Dylan Cousins right now, I think that it's time to cut ties with Dylan Cousins and be done. Because a lot of times once you get into your head on these things, it's almost like a pitcher. Once you're throwing 98 but you're wild, it's tough to get that control back, right? So I really do think that the Sabres need to be done with Dylan Cousins. If they can trade Bowen Byram, I mean, then great. I would hate to lose Owen Power just because of how young he is, because he is still only 22 years old. But he does have a very big cap hit. It's $8.35 billion.
That's the thing with me. It's that Rasmus Dahlin's always going to be the number 1 on this team, and Owen Power, for what he makes, as I think for what we're expecting out of him, I think it's a tough ask to ask him to be able to produce it at an $8.3 million cap hit. But the one thing about Zegras too, I know he's a risk, and I agree what Real Deal Prime says. He's an offensive player. and things like that. But he only makes 5.75 this year and next year, so it might be worth a risk. You're not getting locked in for 5, 6, 7 years yet. So if you want to take the risk now, it may be an opportunity in terms of that. Hey, what's up there? What's going on there, Robbie? So we want to say, in terms of a guy like that, I mean, the Sabres have to take those risks. I wanted to also circle back to something else, Matt, about the average age of this team. Okay, I want to give you the 6 youngest teams in the NHL. Sabres are 25.4, Montreal's 26.1, Flyers are 26.3, Utah's 26.4, Anaheim is 27.1, San Jose is 27.2. What do all those teams have in common right now?
They're in the bottom of the league.
They're out of the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
No. And listen, to Henny, I love the passion. Like, we love it. Like, I want you to, it's perfectly okay because we
right.
feel
That's what we're here for. You should have heard.
You
should have heard a
sorry.
couple of our show. Yeah, you should have heard a couple of our shows when we were talking about Kevin Adams not getting things done, man. And it comes down to it, and I think it's more fun sometimes to yell and scream about it than than it is about positive stuff. Unless you're actually winning, like where it's the Bills.
Yep.
But
and that's why I still say that we add some veterans, add a couple. We don't have to add a lot. I'm just saying, imagine 2 more veterans on this team. I mean, I keep coming back to this story about Cody Hodgson when I listened to him on Spit and Chicklets. Cody Hodgson used to play for the Sabres. We had a young team, and then when they traded for Chris Drury, he said the next day in that locker room, the young guys were mesmerized watching Chris Drury prepare, and the things that he used to say, just lead by example. He said that changed the whole dynamic of that locker room.
Well, Cody Hodgson was not here. Cody Hodgson was not here with Chris Drury.
He wasn't? I thought he was there.
No, Hodgson was 2009, I think, and Drury was.
Oh, was he? Oh, I thought he was there for sure. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else then. But I know there was. Who was I listening to? I don't quite remember. But
you might be thinking of Cody. What's his face? There was Cody McCormick, maybe.
Maybe. I can't remember. I got to find it. But anyway, long story short is I do remember them talking about the impact that Drury had when he came into the locker room, right? Mm-hmm. And it galvanized those young players, right? And that's what the Sabres need. You need to find that guy. That's someone that, I mean, I still would have loved to see like a Stamkos come here, a guy that's been a captain, that's won multiple cups. I mean, what would he mean to a player like a Dylan Cousins, or what would he mean to a guy like a Zach Benson, right? That guy comes in the locker room, that commands respect. You learn how to be a professional. You learn how to handle the ups and downs. You're on the ice. You're up 4-2, and the other team's coming at you. Guys, take it easy. We're okay. We're going to be – it's different when a player says it than when a coach says it, right? When a guy has been through those things before. And I think that's what this team really, really needs. Little sprinkling of better on the bottom end of our defensive pairings. Another top 6 player, and I really think the Sabres will start to ascend to be more consistent. And then we'll get to where we need to be in the playoffs.
Because that's what it comes down to is consistency. So – I mean, that's really what it is. That's what we keep talking about and keep preaching is it comes down to it. We're not saying go out and win every single game. But as you build on shifts and periods and then games, and then you're able to put 2 or 3 together, you lost one. And then you're able to get, we still played a great game, but we lost. Okay, cool. Let's start next game and start building again. Period. Shift. Period. And that's truly how you start building in an 82 game season, because it's not like the NFL. It's not where you only have 17 games. You lose one, that you're probably on your heels a little bit. In hockey, it's 82 games. Out of 5 games, you want to be 3-2, 4-1, because out of a 6 game or out of a 5 game stretch, if you get 12 points, I'd have to go back and figure it out. But real quick math, what is that? 5 divided by 80 is 15. Am I wrong? Why can't I do math this morning? I think I don't. I think I haven't had enough coffee yet. Real quick, so 20, I'm sorry, it's 16. So 80 times 5 is 16. So then if you turn around and say, what is that? Let me just do the quick math on my phone. because my brain's not working right now. So
It's okay. This team has that effect. It does.
yeah,
I think we could all agree there.
I don't know where I was going, but there's a lot of points that could be had from there.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
agree.
said, I can't sit here and do that. But I mean, basically, if you're going 3-2 every 5 game stretch, you
Hmm.
know, whatever. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
if you're picking up 12 points, and that's really what you got to do is start building on consistency, and that's really what it comes down to. So with that being said, I'm going to
Hmm.
go through the rest of this big board, real quickly. Ivan Provorov, lefty, righty, 27 years old. Kyle Palmieri, left wing, right wing, 33 years old. Mario Ferreira, left defenseman, 26 years old. Brian Dumoulin, left defenseman, 33 years old. Mika Zibanejad, 31 years old. He is a center for the Rangers. We'll see him today. Same with
Yep.
Ryan Lindgren, left defenseman, 26 years old. We'll see him today as well. Jamie
Hmm.
Oleksiak from the Kraken, 32 years old, left defenseman.
Hmm.
We'll leave the number 18 out of there. Only kidding. Rasmus Ristolainen, left defenseman, right defenseman, 30 years old.
I think I'm
Ryan,
crazy. I would not mind bringing Rasmus Ristolainen back.
I think he
I
needs. I think he needs to stay as far away from Buffalo as
Well,
possible.
but I think the problem with him was, Matt, he was an eighth overall pick. I think we put too much on him. But he's a physical defenseman, right? He's got size, he's got some skill, right? If he manages expectations, he wouldn't be a bad second, third pairing on this team. I mean, I don't think it'll ever happen. I think he wants to stay far away from Western New York. But I just wanted to interject that.
I
That's all.
want Rasmus Ristolainen as far away from Buffalo as he probably wants to stay. So with that being said, Ryan Donato, center, 28 years old. He's only got a $2 million cap hit. Wouldn't be a bad player to bring in. Gustav Nyquist, right wing center, 35 years old. David Savard, right defenseman, 34 years old. Scott Lawton, center, 30 years old.
Hmm.
Trent Federic, left wing center,
Hmm.
26 years old. Nick Robertson, left wing, 23 years old.
Hmm.
Ryan O'Reilly, 33 years old, center. Matt Grzelcyk, left defenseman, 31 years old.
Hmm.
Jason Zucker, 33 years old. Keandre Miller, left defenseman, 24 years old. Christian Dvorak, a left wing center, 28 years old. And finally, Trevor Zegras with the best mullet in the NHL, center, left wing, 23 years old. So he
Yes.
actually, and according to Dave, he has been linked to Buffalo.
Yes, and I'll tell you what, you mentioned another old Sabre, and Ryan O'Reilly would not be a bad fit. Again, that's the kind of guy I'm looking for.
Yeah.
A guy that's been a cap. He was captain of Team Canada when they had Sidney Crosby on the roster. I want people to let that sink in for how much his leadership. And again, we dropped the ball on Ryan O'Reilly in that terms. We should have made him captain. Should have we? But listen, by the way, Ryan O'Reilly does not. He has no trade clause, so he's free and clear, and he only makes about $4 million. Yeah, a year, 4.5. I mean, if you could talk them into it, right?
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
and that's O'Reilly with space sauce. There it is, right? Yeah. So, but he would really stabilize things in that locker room if you were told. But does he really want to come back here? Would his heart be into it? Would he, give you the same? Right? There are some interesting names on that list that I would not mind this team dabbling into if the price was right. Right? Again, just another veteran, guys that have been through the wars before, right? Guys that have been in major play that understand it. Ryan Lindgren, Rangers, that's another defenseman I like. I mean, he's a tough-minded guy. He blocks shots like crazy. Those are the kind of guys I want to see in this. We are relying on O'Reilly. I get it. I mean, his expectations would be different if he came back. Just the leadership he could give and try to help the young guys out, I think would be, again, that player that these young kids can look at in the locker room. Just the way he conducts himself. He's been a Stanley Cup champion. He's been team captain of Canada. He's been through it all. Like me, and he would be beloved in this town. And Sabre fans would embrace it. I really, really do. But would he embrace it is the question. So,
all right, and real quick, just to go back to my math real quick, I figured it out. It would be 48 wins, which would end up being 96 points, and that gets you into the playoffs. So figured that out. Just so I got that off my mind. But let's kind of move into real quick while we finish this up here. Today we have a game against the Rangers, 5:30 p.m. tonight. And moving forward, we have a game Tuesday against the Ducks here in Buffalo. Thursday in Carolina against the Hurricanes. And then next Saturday back here, 10 a.m. For Saturday for Hockey Hotline against the Canadiens in Montreal. Or, I'm sorry, that one's in Buffalo, and then they play Monday in Montreal.
okay.
Out of those games, what do you think has to happen for you to be happy? Not necessarily happy, but
I just want to see consistent effort as much as possible every night. I want to see guys like Kulik. I want to see some of the better players. I want to see Cousins play better too, for two reasons. A, either he starts coming back to the Cousins we hoped for, or number two, he helps his trade deadline value or maybe even in the summer. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Much appreciated, Henny. And come back any week. We're always going to be here. We want to hear from you guys. I love this. The chatter in the group chat has made this an excellent show. So we're really enjoying
and
it.
especially on the 7th, that's the other thing I was looking up too, because we only have a couple of weeks till the trade deadline. Let's see here. We got 2 weeks from yesterday until the trade deadline, so we are putting that show together now. We're going to probably be live. At least myself is going to be live from noon to 4 that day. And
I will be joining you as well. Yep,
probably
we'll get
till
it there.
4th. Probably till 4:30, just so that we can kind of give you guys a Sabres style coverage from that side for the trade deadline, because that's going to be a lot of fun. It's like Christmas Day for any hockey fan is trade deadline. That and opening day of the hockey season,
or
but with that being
Festivus
said-
or Festivus for Sabre fans lately, where we air our grievances.
Well, we air our grievances every week, so every week must be Festivus for us.
It's always Festivus.
With that being said, we want to thank everybody in the comments today, keeping that group chat going, the comments going. Definitely had a great time today. Definitely want to thank everybody here. Definitely want to have everybody back, and join us next week, and then join us for the trade deadline show, and then we'll have Hockey Hotline the next morning following that. But Brian,
always good to be seen. Let's go Sabres.
Go Sabres. Go Bills.
Let's have a good week. Go Bills.
Absolutely.
Is always. That's have a great week.
Absolutely. Every week.